Welcome to Branch 1779's full coverage informational video series.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Full Coverage, Branch 1779's informational video series. I'm John Mitchell, the branch president. It's good to have you back with us. Let's talk about what we're going to show you in this episode of Full Coverage. In this episode of Full Coverage, we are going to talk about the December Exclusionary Period. Before we can talk about the December Exclusionary Period, it's probably best that we go back over why there is a December Exclusionary Period and the rules for maximum hours. In June of 1986, National Arbitrator Mittenthal ruled that 12 and 60-hour limits are absolute, that full-time employees may neither volunteer nor be required to work beyond those limits. Now, these limitations were actually governed by the ELM, and the 1260 limitations are inclusive of all of the hours that are worked, including any type of leave, also consistent with the 20-hour overtime limit memo, which is M00859. Holiday leave is credited to this, and if an employee that works a holiday for which a holiday leave is paid, those hours worked in excess of the holiday leave hours paid would also count. It can get kind of confusing, but Mittenthal also said that an employee sent home in the middle of a scheduled day because the employee is already at the 60-hour mark is entitled to pay for the remainder of the schedule. Now, going forward, that is important to know for the other 48 weeks of the year. The December exclusionary period is a 4-week period, and we'll get to that in just a second. Now, because this language limits the total number of hours that an employee may work, and those are service hours, that's the time you're actually spent working. It does not include your lunch. Effectively, non-ODL carriers, PTFs, and CCAs can only actually be on the clock 12 hours from start until they clock out with that half-hour lunch in between before a violation would occur. Now, as you can see here, it says the exception occurs if there is an agreement at the national level that modifies this. Now, this is actually one of the things that's modified within the NALC collective bargaining agreement because it does allow overtime desireless carriers and work assignment carriers to actually physically work 12 hours, which would put them on the clock, or when we say on the clock, in tax reports, there for more than 12 hours to the 12 and 1/2 hour mark. This is what Arbitrator Snow decided 2 years later was the exclusive remedy for 12 and 60-hour violations. Now, keep in mind, we follow the instruction first, then we grieve, which is why, if you read the previous slide, you're looking at it saying, well, these are absolutes. Arbitrator Snow said, obviously, there would be times when you were given an instruction by management to work beyond the 12/60-hour limitations. And when that occurs, the exclusive remedy of 50% of the base hourly straight time rate is applicable. And this applies for each day of the work week, Saturday through Thursday, up until Friday, because Friday you'll have a total number of hours worked. So if you work more than those limits, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those are separate daily violations, which a 50% remedy applies. And then you'll also have the remedy for whatever the total hours worked for the week was. These are important things to remember. So what is the December exclusionary period? The parties have agreed in Memo 1508 that it is a 4-week period. It typically runs right after Thanksgiving to right after Christmas. And this year, for 2020, the 2020 penalty overtime exclusion period is actually from November 28 to December 25. Post-service has so that it starts the beginning of a pay period through the end of a pay period. What does this mean? This means there is no penalty overtime pay for hours worked over 10 hours in a service day or 60 hours in a service week. Let me add some clarification. If you are an 8-hour carrier, if you are a PTF or a CCA and you are worked over 10 hours, you would not get penalty overtime pay. Obviously, we want management to follow the contract so that 8-hour carriers are only worked 8 hours in a day. This also means, in my opinion, that during the December exclusionary period, management saying that penalty overtime is the reason an 8-hour carrier was required to carry on their own route is invalid. That might be a topic for another time. If you have a question about that, reach out to your steward. Now, penalty overtime pay is double time. And again, for the December exclusionary period, it doesn't apply. So for you work assignment carriers, for you ODL carriers, if you worked over 10 hours a day, you would get penalty overtime. And in fact, for my PTF and CCA members as well, all of this applies. During the December exclusionary period, once you hit 10 hours, instead of getting penalty overtime, you would continue at the regular overtime rate. And remember, because of the December exclusionary period, ODL carriers, work assignment carriers, you can be mandated to work beyond the 12-hour limits. All of the information that we've gone over is found in the JCAM, Joint Contract Administration Manual. Stewards have access to this. If you have questions, absolutely contact them or me so that we can go through this. So as a recap, penalty overtime pay is applicable the other 48 weeks of the year for hours that are worked above 10 on a regularly scheduled day, or anything on a non-scheduled day. Obviously, that's going to apply to overtime carriers. Anything on a non-scheduled day after 8 hours, or the other neat little caveat here is if it is your 5th day of overtime, anything after 8 hours on that 5th day also qualifies for penalty overtime. I know we hear a lot of the jibber jabber from management saying, oh, you have to have an 8-hour day. Well, yeah, if I'm a regular carrier, I'm guaranteed at least 5 of them. Their rationale for the, hey, you got to have an 8-hour day is because on day 5, if you've worked overtime the 4 previous days, anything you work past 8 hours on day 5 is penalty overtime. As you can see, brothers and sisters, we try and pack a lot of information into a short amount of time so that you can watch it on your phone at lunch or break. If you think we're doing a good job, please subscribe to the channel and feel free to share this information with other brothers and sisters you think could benefit from it. If you have a suggestion, by all means, we're going to drop an email link right here. Feel free to send us an email sharing your thoughts and suggestions. On behalf of Branch 1779, I'm John Mitchell. That does it for this episode of Full Coverage. Thanks for watching. We certainly hope to see you next time.